Testing. Okay.
panelists are going to be there. Did you look at your talking points at all? You can keep it short because we're running behind. You know. And so we have one person, her flight got canceled, so she.
Okay, do you want me to scoot over one more? Am I on the right? Yeah. Okay.
When it's on. Oh.
Can we do flags smooth now? Are we doing flags? Amanda, do we do a flag salute first?
Good morning. I would love to call this hearing to order and offer a real big apology. As you know, San Bernardino City and the county has been faced with a terrorist act. And we were being brought up to speed by the Board of Supervisors, by the sheriff, and that meeting is continuing on. It just so happened that our hearing was planned much earlier than theirs. That reason I say that is because, that happened December the 2nd. But they really wanted to make sure that we were brought up to speed as electeds as to what is needed, because there millions of dollars are needed to bring the county back to where it needs to be. But I am so excited to have a panel and to have the panelists that have come out today and be a part of the status of girls and women of color's hearing on women in business. This committee has convened this hearing to examine the issues that impact women of color in California who own businesses and work in the corporate world. We want to thank all of our panelists for their participation and for coming to this wonderful city of Fontana. I think we have, the mayor is not here. I think she's stuck in Washington, D.C. I saw her picture on Facebook. But I do appreciate the mayor, Aquanetta Warren, for allowing us to use this facility. Also, Kent Hunt is the city manager here, and he is a part of helping us as well. The city clerk, Tanya Lewis, and the deputy city clerk, Cecilia Lopez Henderson, all are here today, and they're going to help us with the hearing. I also want to thank my colleagues, and in one colleague, Eduardo Garcia, has been a champion for women and girls of color. It's really interesting that we have one male that's really interested in being a part of this. He made our last hearing. However, he missed his airplane in Sacramento. He stayed over in Sacramento so that he could fly down here. And I am just really sad that he missed that flight. But we have with us, and I'm sure that Josie Gonzalez is in the meeting that I just left. She said she would be here. Mr. Mark Steinnorth said that he would be here. So as this day rolls on, we'll get more people up here. But I do want to introduce Laura Mancha. Laura Mancha is employed and there she is, stand up. Oh, yes, we do love her. She's also a county board member, Board of Trustees in San Bernardino County. but today she's here in the capacity of holding down the fort for her boss, Josie Gonzalez. Gwen Rogers is a member of the Board of Education, San Bernardino. Thank you, Gwen. Betty Yee is here? Betty Yee's staff is here? Oh, there you are. I came in an airplane with her yesterday, and she's really interested in this particular subject, and we'll be doing even more on it. And we have Darren Parker, who is a special assistant to the speaker, and he's the one that helps to put this together from the Speaker's Office of Member Services. I don't see him in here right now, but I saw him when I was walking in. And now, you're ready to discuss so many points. I'm pleased to have so many here that are ready to discuss this subject, and thoughts on how the state might be able to develop a pipeline to encourage more girls of color to become interested in studying business. We want to assure that everyone will have an opportunity to speak, so if you could keep your comments to 5 minutes or less if you don't need it. We have time at the other end of it and build that time in. So, timekeeper, where's my timekeeper? Okay, the timekeeper will raise a sheet when you have 30 seconds remaining. So if you'll be respectful of that time, we'll appreciate it. And then we'll have public comment after our final panel. So please be making your notes so that you'll be able to participate. Before we begin to hear from our panel, I just want to make just a couple of really brief comments. Business is very important to me, especially small business. And that's why I chair a committee on small business in the Inland Empire. I've been in business for over 30 years myself, and out here in the Inland Empire, 2/3 of the businesses in my district are small businesses. Many of them are owned by women, and many by women of color. I don't want to get into numbers because I think that later we can do that. My notes say that I need to tell you about all the statistics and that information, but I think it'll just go past us. We need to get down to business. So I'd like to begin with our first panel of academic leaders. Our first panel, I was very impressed, first of all, that you ladies are so involved in the academic end of business, teaching business. And we have Kimberly Freeman, an Assistant Dean for Diversity Initiatives and Community Relations, University of California, Anderson School of Management. Dr. Adina Sterling, Assistant Professor of Organizational Behavior, Stanford Graduate School of Business. Dr. Sasha Joseph Matthews, Associate Professor, University of the Pacific and Eberhart School of Business. Dr. Michelle Turner, Executive Director, Black Alumni Association, University of Southern California. So, we would like to start with Kimberly Freeman. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Brown, and welcome distinguished guests and members of the panel. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you this morning to give a few highlights of some of the things we're doing at UCLA Anderson to grow our pipeline and create a climate where women will want to come and study at the graduate level. Uh-oh, I already flunked the first. So I'm providing a little bit of context about the state of women in business schools, and it is known that more women are now getting into business school. The percentages have been climbing. We're at about 35% on average across the nation. But I wanted to highlight that one of the sister campuses in the UC system, UC Berkeley, had a fall entering class of 41% women. And my colleague who runs the diversity programs there has been instrumental in creating ways for women to connect who are interested in applying, or once they've applied to Berkeley, interested in connecting with current students so they could feel that Berkeley was a place where they would be included and feel very supported. So they have done a great job of increasing their numbers. I put this quote also that, MBA enrollment says something about how we prepare women to lead in the 21st century, because the MBA truly is the gateway degree to a career, at least in the corporate setting, a leadership career. And this is a quote from Erica James, who is the dean of the Goizueta Business School at Emory in Atlanta. She's the first African-American female dean of a top 10 business school, and I had the pleasure of having dinner with her a couple weeks ago in Atlanta, and so she's very much focused on this issue and has written a lot about this topic of pipeline. There's an organization called the Forte Foundation, which seeks to increase the numbers of women applying to business school, as well as to provide support to women who have graduated with their MBAs. And these are statistics from Forte about some of the schools who have not only met the 35% threshold, but have gone above it in terms of their percentages. As you can see, Northwestern has 43% women in their full-time MBA program. So again, the climate is getting better for women who are applying to business school. Now, there's another side to this story. So while we see more women getting admitted, the actual pipeline of women who are applying is smaller. So it's a war on talent to get the women to actually yield or, commit to your particular school. I can tell you firsthand at UCLA, we were very aggressive this year in trying to yield those women that we've admitted. I just went to a dinner that our dean hosted on Wednesday to really encourage the women who have been admitted in round one to sign and commit to UCLA. But because there's such a small talent pool of women, they get offers from many other top business schools, and so it really is a war on talent. Some of the things at Anderson that we look for that makes women successful in getting into the program are, certainly work experience is key, and most of our women have an average of 5 years. These are women who are applying to our full-time program. There are some specific industries that really help your application and make you a stronger, more viable candidate. Those would include consulting and finance. And of course, undergraduate majors that are considered rigorous and have the type of quantitative foundation that is going to be helpful to you as a graduate student in business. And so we see a lot of undergraduate majors in business and engineering. And we do live in a world where numbers matter, and so with most of the top tier business schools, the other things that are certainly looked at very closely would be grade point average, and then the GMAT, the graduate management test. I've got 30 seconds, so I'm going to speed through this. And unfortunately, with the GMAT, women of color are just not taking it in proportion to their white counterparts. So we have to provide tips and strategies and ways to get more women to take that test, because that is the deal breaker in terms of admissions. Some of the things that the literature cite as being ways to encourage women of color to apply to business school would be employers offering night courses for GMAT study, and then the schools creating a climate where you have speaker series and different programs that are really focused on women, and creating an environment where women can take immediate leadership roles. I'm sure that the other speakers are going to cover some of the remaining bullets in my slides, but I will just conclude by saying that we live in a world that really is hyper-connected and requires knowledge workers of all stripes, and so it's important that we get more women in leadership roles and organizations to create a creative, collaborative, problem-solving environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will hold my questions until the end.
Good morning, Assemblywoman Brown and the Select Committee on the Status of Women and Girls of Color in California, as well as good morning, audience members. As Assemblywoman Brown stated, my name is Adina Sterling. I'm an assistant professor of organizational behavior at Stanford, and my comments today reflect my own thoughts and opinions on this important issue, not Stanford University's. In a lot of ways, my comments are going to follow Kim's very nicely because I'm going to focus on the status of women in higher education, particularly as it pertains to their pursuit of PhDs and then their attainment of faculty positions. Data from the UC system indicates that there were 140 PhDs in business granted over the last 4 years. Of those, none of those doctorate degrees went to African American women. For Latina women, there were just 3 PhDs granted, representing just over 2% of all PhDs granted in business. It seems that we have a bit of a chicken and egg problem. More specifically, studies show that students of color, as well as girls and women, do better in primary, secondary, and post-secondary classrooms when teachers, professors, and teaching assistants look like them. For example, a study published by the AER Papers and Proceedings in 2005 by Dr. Thomas Lee, using fixed effects models to account for causal identification, shows that girls and minority students are more likely to be negatively perceived by a non-same race teacher than a same race teacher, which may have an effect on their performance in the classroom. More recently, a study by the NBER in 2015 by Lusher, Campbell, and Carroll in the context of a large, diverse, and public university in California shows that there is a positive and significant increase in the course grades of university students that are assigned to TAs of the same race and ethnicity. In short, studies suggest that one way to encourage girls and women of color to pursue degrees in business is to increase the number of professors and TAs that look like them. Obviously, the chicken and egg aspects of this problem are clear-cut. Increasing faculty diversity is not possible until we have a pipeline of women of color pursuing undergraduate degrees that will prepare them for graduate school in fields like economics, mathematics, and computer science. In my opinion, it is that this problem will remain unless explicit, concrete steps are taken to address it. One step is educating young women of color that business is a viable career path. An important aspect of business disciplines is that they rely largely on logic and theoretical concepts borrowed from the social sciences. Yet, women of color are much more likely to pursue degrees in social sciences than in business. Again, looking at data on the UC system indicates that 209 women of color graduated with an undergraduate degree in business last year, compared to almost 3,000 that graduated from the social sciences. That means there's a roughly 1 to 14 ratio for those graduating in business to social science. For men, that ratio is 1 to 3. For Asian men, that ratio is closer to 1 to 2. This means if women of color pursuing a degree in the social sciences were made to realize that a pivot into business is more like a soft turn, this could have a substantial effect on the number of women of color entering business domains. This might help with the supply of women of color with business degrees, but to make an impact on the diversity of the faculty, this will likely not be enough. For women of color to pursue a PhD in business, first, they need role models to plant the idea. Second, they need opportunities to do research. To get into a good graduate school today, you often need letters of reference from academics. These letters of reference remain out of reach for many women of color. I'll close with an anecdote from my own experience. Arguably, in my case, I had a lot of advantages in applying to graduate school. My father is an academic, albeit not in a business domain, so the idea of becoming an academic was planted in me at a young age. Even with this additional advantage, however, I could have still used additional help. If I had had the opportunity to do research with academics prior to pursuing a PhD, this would have afforded me the critical letters of recommendation that I sorely needed. We have a model at Stanford in the Graduate School of Business called the Research Fellows Program. And this program is particularly aimed at encouraging minorities and women to pursue PhD degrees and gives them those critical letters. So we can talk about that more if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next. Push your button.
Sorry. Good
And
morning,
don't,
everyone.
and sit back
back,
from.
yeah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us here, Assemblywoman Brown, and thank you for all the other officials and distinguished guests. Good morning. So again, my own is going to follow well from Dina's because I'm going to talk a little bit about the role of faculty of color in making sure that we have women of color in the role of in business. So according to a national report by the State of Higher Education Executive Officers Association, high school graduates earn an average of about $30,000 a year. Bachelors with graduates with a first degree, $50,000. And if you have a master's or a doctorate, on average, you earn about $70,000. So it goes to reason that the higher your degree, the more likely you are to earn a higher amount of money. Unfortunately, for many campuses, they are not places where women of color feel included. Often on campuses, women of color do not feel very included. They feel isolated. They feel as if this is not a place where they can get a sense of community, and that becomes a huge problem. If college campuses are not welcoming spaces for women of color, and we do not have women of color in key administrative roles where they can influence campus-wide decision-making on recruitment, admissions, retention, and student life, then how can we make campuses inclusive spaces for women of color? Somebody has to be thinking about it. Then, if we want women of color to pursue higher degrees, we have to ensure we have people on campuses who can inspire them and influence them. And we really, really need many more faculty of color in positions on campuses. And not only at the assistant level, right? Because we tend to have more at the assistant level, then we have a little bit less at the associate, and then we have a little bit less at the full. And I'm not quite sure where we are losing everyone, but if you do a study, if you look at the data around how women of color, faculty women of color get tenure, you will see that's part of the problem that we are facing. And that's why I wanted to focus my discussions today. Because according to a national study of post-secondary faculty, 33% of all faculty are female. That's good. But when you look at that data and you disaggregate the data, only 8% of those women are women of color. And when you break it down further, 3% are Latina, 3% are African Americans, 3% are African Americans, 2% are Latina, and 3% are Asian women. And so this is a real problem because we simply do not have faculty of color to influence women and girls of color onto campuses. And so how are we going to prepare them for the fight that they're going to be experiencing when they get into that boardroom, if they can get into that boardroom, right? So that becomes a huge problem. So I just wanted to break down, you see on that slide is a breakdown of all professors. And so the first challenge is that we're not getting them to get into positions. But then the second one is when we do get them into the business world, look at what's happening in terms of influential management and professional positions. When we're talking about Latinas, only 25% of Latinas in the workforce are in positions of influence, either professional or management. When you compare those numbers to Asian American women and white women, you see even when we look at gender, it's not equal. We have some challenges there. Let's look at the salaries of women in business. So, often we see this number that's bandied about, this number of 79% in terms of what women make compared to what men make. But that's really dominated by Asian and white women. When you look at Latinas, they make 30,000 on average, and that number is only 54% of what a white male makes. So it's very far from 79, right? When you look at the average salary, average annual salary for an African-American woman is 34,000 a year, but that's 63% of what a white man makes. And what's interesting, when I don't have the data here for you all to see, but when you look at what's happening within a race, that Latinas and African-American women make almost the same as Latino and African-American men. We're talking about 89%, 90% of what their male counterparts make, but not their white male counterparts, and that's the problem. And then I looked at some figures looking at, receipts, business receipts for firms that are owned by women of color. So even when we are able to influence women, girls, young people, to work in the business world or to own their own business, they still are far behind, because firms owned by white and Asian women have business receipts that's 9.5 and 9.3 higher than the average for all women-owned businesses. But firms owned by Latinas and Black women, 54% less and 74% less than their white and Asian counterparts. That's a real problem. So for me, my contribution here to the hearing is simple. There are huge inequities in the system when it comes to women of color in business, where institutions of higher learning are equalizing entities for some. They are not necessarily so for women of color. And the situation in California is no different. We only have 5 institutions of higher learning with more than 15% African-American faculty. So we don't have enough programs, we don't have enough faculty, and we don't have enough intentional effort to get women of color into business schools, into higher learning, and into higher ed degrees. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know about you, but I'm finding this very, very interesting. Before I get to the next panelist, I would like to introduce Lorena Corona, and she's the president of the Board of Education. So she's one of these people in the audience that's going to be taking your information back, because this is Fontana and this is her district. We also have Dina Walker, and she's a board member over in Rialto in the school board. Are you the vice chair over there? She's the vice chair of the board over there. And so these are some folks that actually can start looking at this from grade school on through high school. And we have with us Zazette Scott, and she's with Senator Connie Leva's office. I just want to make sure we introduce those folks out there in the audience. Next, we will have Ms. Turner.
Good morning.
Dr. Turner, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Assemblywoman Brown, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I absolutely love what my colleagues have presented this morning, but I'm going to come at it from a little bit of a different point of view. So you won't see any charts, but you're going to, hear some things based on some practical experience. I really do come at this from a 360-degree perspective. I went through my experiences all throughout education in the fields of business. I graduated with an undergrad degree in business, MBA, and then when I came back and looked at my doctoral field research, it was absolutely in the areas of then how, from a person of color perspective, we could highlight and engage at the policy level so that all of our aspirations and practices would therefore somehow find entry points for alignment. And I think especially given the situation of women of color in business, this is, an area of importance. I, in my role as executive director of a Black Alumni Association, also want to make clear that my role is not a volunteer management of a group of alumni that sit long distance from the university setting that I'm in. We are a fully funded department, which is kind of unique. It allows me, therefore, to use my role to start to speak to levels of policy for students of color, for alumni of color, and hopefully, again, its impact in our community. With respect to women of color in business, let me also say that I'm also an entrepreneur, have been very successful. I was a senior manager in IBM before I started my own business at that level for 20 years. So when I come at this particular topic, I want to make comments with regard to the lack of women, young women, undergraduates, grad students, able to really not only engage academically, but build their social capital and start to engage the kinds of networks that actually do create entry points for them as women of color in business. Those opportunities for social capital building just do not exist institutionally. And we really are at a point now in this conversation where, and believe me, I've sat on many councils, many task forces where we've discussed problems with regard to diversity. I would tell you that I think we actually overstand the problem of diversity, but we do not understand how to create practical solutions and entry points. And I absolutely believe that mentoring is important. But it can't happen much as it does, for instance, in my organization, in an ad hoc basis where because we do understand the importance of it as alumni of color, to create alumni mentoring networks. It can't happen on that basis. It needs to be institutionalized. Now, the problem also is kind of circling back to many of the points made earlier, that the research with regard to women of color in business or people of color, the research is so limited. But I believe that programs like ours, where we've actually had a very vital network of at least an average of 200 Black alumni mentors for the last 9 years, we're starting to collect our own data now so that we can at least have a basis of research to start to inform our institutional practices and then hopefully our institutional policies on funding that they may at some point engage and set aside so that programs like ours are well-funded and institutionalized and become systemic instead of reactionary. So that really is my message today. I think the theoretical has to converge with, actual aspirations and expectations of young people of color. And let me also say that needs to happen from an institutional funding perspective, not just in terms of programs that sit on the side, but we also have to dive into the conversation a little deeper about how we actually fund enrollment and retainment of students of color in business at the institutional level. That doesn't happen. And especially when you're talking about grad schools, we have corporations that have moved farther now from the return on investment conversations about funding employers back into grad school MBA programs. That pipeline is also dried up, so let me just throw that out there.
Thank you so much. Just one question. Do you think that you can have someone who's in business? Our next panel is a panel that should be getting ready. They're already in business. They're already doing what they do. Do you think that that's a pipeline for you to come back and say to these ladies, why don't you come into school and let us give you more skills so that you can be more successful?
So I think to answer the question, yes, I think that is a pipeline. I'm an example of that pipeline. But, it's also very frustrating to come as a non-academic into an academic setting because then, you have to also be very intentional and very prescribed on walking that journey of academic and institutional politics. So that's really what I'm doing right now.
Well, thank you. We will probably have more questions. I hope you'll be sticking around. I'm sure the audience will have questions for you. We want to move on to panel number 2, and this is our entrepreneur panel. They've heard all of the they've heard all of the theory, And theory is very important as a launching place for us. Now we're going to hear about creating new opportunities in business. Hilda Kennedy is the president of AMPAC, Tri-State CDC. Maria Molina Solano is the executive director of the National Latina Business Women's Association in the Inland Empire. And Kiana Webb Cervelo is president of the Webb Family Enterprise. I should say enterprises because she's got a lot of things on her plate. And I think I'd like to start with Hilda Kennedy. Thank you so much for coming, ladies. Really appreciate your impact in our community. You have to push your button right here.
We're not very technical.
Oh, very good. Oh, my goodness. You would think I
And if
could
you
get
could
that.
kind of be back from the mic so that you won't.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, that's fine.
Very good. Thank you so much, Assemblymember Brown, and to this incredible committee, Select Committee on Women of Color in California. I think this topic is so very critical, and I'm personally passionate about it. There are numerous. Let me say, first of all, I am the president of an SBA lending group, and we provide capital for businesses seeking financing, especially fixed assets, but also working capital. And so we work with a number of businesses. We work with a number of women. And I am the president-elect for the National Association of Women Business Owners for California and past president of NABO IE. And so this issue of women and women of color in business is very personal. There are numerous recent and historical reports that describe the problem and the opportunities for women of color in business. Clearly, women business owners are making their presence known in the marketplace. The 2014 American Express Open Report on the State of Women-Owned Businesses documents how women business owners are increasing in terms of their numbers. In fact, the growth was 68% in comparison to the same period between 1997 and 2014, a rate 1.5 times the national average. Minority businesses are equally growing, especially women-owned minority businesses are growing at very significant rates. And though the documented studies describe that starting businesses is admirable, it does not document how many of those stay in business, nor does it document how many of those businesses thrive. And that's the concern I'm going to share a little bit about today. SBA commissioned a study through the Office of Small Business Advocacy about access to capital among young firms, minority-owned firms, and women-owned firms. It was a very thoughtful and profound report, and the report and the facts are concerning and compelling. Wells Fargo is right now working on an issue with the Greenlining Institute on why African-American businesses, African-American-owned businesses are not accessing capital at rates that are commendable or commensurate with their non-minority counterparts. So there's research on the table, and we see the numbers. But what I want to talk about is very personal to me. It's putting my experience working with businesses, especially minority businesses, in practice. AMPAC has financed over $200 million in deals with businesses. Our numbers concerning minorities and women is less than marketable. And the reason this is happening, from my own anecdotal understanding and working with businesses, I found it in a biblical principle. In Matthew 22:21, the scripture says, "Therefore render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's." I found that on one hand, my clients, especially non-minority clients, do not want to render to Caesar what is due Caesar. Therefore, they are impacted in their growth as a business because they don't want to pay taxes. Bottom line. On the other hand, with my minority clients, they don't want to or have not historically rendered to Caesar, Caesar being creditors, what's due to Caesar. So they haven't paid credit cards. They haven't made their mortgage payments in a timely fashion. They haven't made their car payments in a timely fashion, and it unequivocally impacts their ability to access capital and for them to be able to grow as business owners. And if you look at the American Express Open Report, the numbers support that. There were 1.2 million women-owned businesses businesses owned by African American women in 2014, and they hired 237,000 employees. If you compare that to Latina business owners, there were 1 million Latino business owners in 2014. They hired 695,000 employees. And then 437,000 employees. Asian women business owners hired 695,000 Asian woman business owners, and they hired 699 employees, and I would submit they're not accessing capital, and that's why that's happening. And what the governor's office is doing in supporting SBDCs and women business centers, talking about access to credit is critical. Making these programs available to ethnic chambers and minority business owners is a solution that I think cannot be understated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to our next panelist.
Good morning, and thank you for having us here.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is definitely an issue that we need to look at very closely, and at the National Latina Business Women Association, we're very serious about what we do because we realize that what we do as an organization is really going to impact the Latina business owner in the Inland Empire. This organization has been around for 12 years. It started in Los Angeles, and it has several chapters throughout California, San Diego, Los Angeles, and we are the baby chapter, by the way, of this organization. We've only been around for 1 year, but I'm proud to say that we are the first chapter to have a paid staff. And that makes such a difference because now we can focus on what is really important. And what is really important is to create capacity building programs that will assist our Latina businesses in the Inland Empire. And by the way, we do open the door to Latino business owners and African American business owners. And so, I just wanted to share some of the numbers a little bit more than we've been talking about. And these are really interesting facts about women business owners. And we have over the last 17 years, women-owned businesses have increased by 68%, and 30% of small businesses are women-owned. In the Inland Empire, 27% of businesses owned by Latinos are owned by women, and that's a huge number for us. Women-owned businesses only receive 4.4 of conventional loans, and 7% of venture capital funding are made to women business owners. Only 4% of government contracts are issued to women. That's shameful, really. But it all has to do, I think it all goes back to the previous panel's discussion about education. And what we find when we talk to our membership is that they are lacking that education in terms of how do you run a business. Many business owners come from the corporate world. And I like to give this example because it's really a great example. We come from the corporate world and we know how to build a widget. We know how to build it real well, But when we open a business, we don't know anything about marketing. We don't know anything about human resources. We don't know any of those leadership. We might not have those skills to manage our business. So we fail in the first 2 years of the new business. So our goal at NOBWA is to create these capacity building programs that assist the business owners not only to learn how to be good leaders, but to run their overall business. You know, some of the businesses that come to us have been around 2-3 years. Their foundation is very weak. And so I want to just share with you the programs that we have. We have a Business Management Academy, and this year we had 25 business owners start and complete the program. And we wanted to make sure that these business owners were able to walk out of there with a business plan and a business profile. Most of them did not have one. And we wanted to make sure that they understood, how do you apply for a business loan? You know, it's not just about filling out an application, it's about being prepared. And we talked a little bit about not paying taxes. Yeah, we don't pay a lot of taxes because we go to the bookkeeper down the street to prepare our taxes, and they want to save us money on paying taxes. So we don't qualify for a loan. So we talk to our business owners about making sure that they have a CPA on board that knows how to prepare their taxes properly, so they pay the proper taxes, so they qualify for a loan. So they walked out of there being ready to apply for a loan. They might not qualify at the time, but they're ready. And we also prepared them to be contract ready. So we had them meet with a couple of corporate buyers so they understand what is it like to sell your product or your service to corporate America, to the federal government, to utility companies. And we were quite successful. In addition to that, we have a program called Emerging Latinas, and it takes Latinas that are starting a business or want to start a business, and we teach them how to build a foundation. With these programs, we are a new chapter. We don't have a lot of money. So we like to partner. We like to partner with organizations that can provide our members the consulting services that we don't have. So we partner with SCORE, with SBA, with the MBDC, and we partner with MPAC as well, and with our various corporate partners. And this is a very important program for us. We have a youth business program, a youth business conference. So we're teaching the children, the young men and women, Latinas and African Americans are in our programs as well. How do you get yourself to college? But most importantly, if you don't want to go to college, what do you do to prepare to start a business? So all of our programs are really involved on capacity building, and I really want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here. And for those of you that are here, congratulations for being here. Thank you so much for supporting us in what we do.
Thank you so much. Kiana,
Good morning.
I am impressed. A young lady with such a wonderful, wonderful enterprise.
Thank you very much. It is an honor to have been asked to join you all today, and I appreciate the offer, Assemblymember Brown. I'm Kiana Webb, Severlo, but soon to be Kiana Webb. I have the honor of running my family's company. We own 17 McDonald's here in Los Angeles and in San Bernardino counties. We're in 8 cities, and we employ approximately 1,300 employees within those cities. I have a bachelor's degree from the University of San Francisco in business, and currently I'm enrolled in a master's program and then leading into a doctoral program in organizational leadership. For me, what I find working in McDonald's, it gives me an opportunity really to be at the ground level with mostly young people who are coming from economically challenged environments and don't necessarily live with language that's positive all the time. And I find that one of the biggest things that we face with women and minorities, especially women who are minorities, is that the conversations that they hear does not allow them to see themselves as being successful or see themselves as being anything other than exactly what their families are. And they don't have opportunities to be able to be exposed and have access to things that I have taken for granted. And in the process, they limit themselves because they feel powerless. And the conversations that we have in McDonald's is not just about tactical, you need to take care of cleaning an environment or being on time. We're here really to help build up conversation and foundations that allow our young people to feel much better about themselves. I find that in business, what really holds us back, especially as women, is that we are challenged by a lot of things. I have 3 young children. My children are 4, 6, and 8. And as a single mother, I have to balance being a parent and being a business owner. And I work with my family, which is a wonderful blessing, but, you know, I work with my family, right? So I do have support. However, you also have challenges and have to figure out how to navigate through personalities, which is true for all businesses in any climate or environment. The difference is I'm trying to keep mine intact because I have to go home and live with them as well, right? And when you're in these environments, especially as women, you tend to sacrifice yourself personally and you get tired. And without a network of support that you're surrounded by, that you can go to and really have a chance to regroup and understand what your value is, you have an opportunity to get lost. And not knowing what resources to reach out to when you're out there in this business environment is really a detriment to your ability to be successful. I also think that as a community, there is an opportunity to create economic empowerment centers. I think that so often when we are tactical, we forget about the humanistic side that we all are. And when we do that, we don't actually make change that's fundamental change forever. What we do is we fix a problem for a moment, and then we go on to the next problem, and then we go on to the next problem, but eventually the original problem comes back. And I think that if we as a group and as a community start having conversations that really talk to things that we can do and what power we do have, as opposed to what most of people like the ones that work with me say what they can't do, then you will find that a lot of things will be much more effectively changed. As a business owner, I could say one of the best things about what I do is that I get to create my own experience. I'm not answering to someone, and I don't think we talk about that a lot as well as business owners. It's not necessarily just the challenges that we're facing, it's also the opportunities that you're creating and the path that you can make for yourself in your life. So thank you for having me again, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. This is an excellent panel. This has been an excellent day so far, and I know that there's going to be more. You have 1,300 employees. You must be one of the largest employers in our area.
Not really, because we count it by cities and then by counties. So because we're spread out, we are not necessarily meeting those statistical markers. But if you do it in aggregate, you would probably say that we are one of the larger employers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the things that I like about business is what you said. You can create your own reality. And it just depends on how you want to work and what you want to do. So I really appreciate all of you being on the panel. Please stick around because I know there's going to be questions, and we're going to have a little bit of a discussion following our next panel. Thank you. Earlier we heard someone say that they came out of corporate America and now they are in the education arena. So we have a corporate panel, and the corporate leadership climbing ladders And breaking ceilings is our next panel. Kiana Highsmith. She is the franchise head, senior director for Tamiflu at Genentech. Jennifer Fisher, intellectual property counsel at Boeing. Evelyn Martinez, area president, Inland Empire Community Bank, Wells Fargo and Company. We have Haley Park, regional,
We
Sorry.
have Kim Winston from
Kim
Starbucks.
Winston. Thank you. Oh, Starbucks. Kim Winston, senior manager of government relations from Starbucks. And we had a change, that's why I read that wrong. Thank you. Can we get started with Kiana? Quita. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I know a Kiana, and that's all I could think of whenever I heard saw the name. But Quita, thank you. Good morning. You want to put your mic on? See the little button on on the console? There it is, okay.
All right, good morning, guest and panelists. I'm Quita Highsmith, a member of the Roche Group, and I want to thank you for putting together this very important topic. We also have members from Genentech. We've got Erica Jackson, Corporate Counsel, and Amy Zajac Hamilton, Senior Manager, Government Affairs, here is with us as well. I'll start my remarks by providing a bit of a background on Genentech and then share my personal journey. Genentech, for those that don't know, is a leading biotechnology company, and we consider ourselves to be the founder of biotechnology here in California. We've got 3 facilities in California, Vacaville, Oceanside, as well as our U.S. corporate headquarters, which is in South San Francisco, where I work. Genentech employs 14,000 employees, and we've got 37 medicines on the market, and I'm proud to say in April, that will be our 40th anniversary of Genentech's founding. And we've made it a priority to leverage diversity and inclusion throughout the organization. We're particularly proud of our progress in helping more women rise to senior leadership positions. In 2010, we launched a corporate goal to help remove barriers and identify the things that we can do as an organization. And I'm happy to say that we've significantly increased our pool of women qualified for leadership positions. We also know that it's important to have the younger generation come up and be STEM savvy, and that's why Genentech is investing in our own backyard with a program that we call Future Lab, and it's a partnership with the schools in South San Francisco, a district that faces significant challenges with only 31% of students going to attend 4-year colleges. We've got a newly founded relationship with legendary historically Black colleges and universities, Spelman, Morehouse, and Hampton, that are also focused on STEM education, and we look to recruit young women of color from these institutions. And lastly, we're making significant progress in developing and marketing treatments for some of the world's most serious diseases, many of which can disproportionately impact people of color, such as certain types of cancers, autoimmune, and neurological disorders. And now my journey began with the firm in 2010, when I started out as the national sales director and led the largest sales force at Genentech. Prior to that, I had been with pharmaceutical firms for the previous 16 years, and I currently lead the commercial operations for Tamiflu. And consistent with Genentech's values, we have a very significant multicultural marketing campaign. We actively support minority suppliers, and we value diverse business relationships in all aspects of my business. The pharma industry is a highly educated workforce, and as the first panel said, having an MBA is critical to getting your seat at the table. I got my undergraduate degree from the University of Kentucky, and 20 years later, I worked every day for 2.5 years to get an MBA at the Johnson School at Cornell University. My mother used to say, too much that is given, much is expected. I sit on 4 boards, nonprofit boards, Girls for a Change, Healthcare Businesswomen's Association, Delta Sigma Theta Foundation, and internally, the Genentech Political Action Committee. Specific to my path, one of the challenges that I faced early in my career was having to move quite regularly because my husband was a member of the United States Marine Corps, and we had to move every 2 to 3 years, and companies cannot always find assignments for the wife and spouse of somebody in the Marine Corps. And so I had to take ownership of my career and develop relationships on my own. But I will say, in hindsight, first of all, I hated moving all those many times. But I did make, in hindsight, I made a lot of friends, and I learned about a lot of different places and things that I would have never learned had we not made all those moves. And so I am very fortunate for that. But in the pharmaceutical industry, there are very few women of color in senior positions, and it makes it challenging to have real honest conversations about career opportunities and obstacles. And the first panel did mention a mentor, but I believe you got to take it one step further for women of color. You need a sponsor. You need somebody sitting in the C-suite that can open the door for you when the door is closed and they're having the discussions about talent. You need somebody who's there who can be your advocate, somebody who's willing to put their neck on the line for you, but they have a position of power. And so you need a champion, and I will tell you, I've had a lot of champions, and that has been instrumental for me. And so I will leave you with one final thing that has benefited my career, and it's having my own personal board of directors. And so one of the things that I have found is having a diverse board, whether it's women, men, white, black, people who have a vested interest in you, and you say to them, you're on my board, I need your help, I want to know where I need to improve, what are the other opportunities that maybe I'm missing, but having my own board has been instrumental in providing professional guidance and emotional security, and it's helped me climb the corporate ladder. So again, Assemblywoman Brown, members, thank you so much for having today's hearing.
Thank you. That was pretty powerful. Now, we all need to have a sponsor
And a
and
board
a
of-
champion and a board of
Board.
directors. That is great. We have next Jennifer, Ms. Jennifer Fisher, or, am I right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. On social media platforms, there's this concept that I'm sure most of you have heard. Every Thursday, you probably see hashtag Throwback Thursday. Friday, there's hashtag Flashback Friday, which is exactly the same thing. I guess it's just for the procrastinators. So in honor of Flashback Friday, I wanted to flash back to where I was a month ago yesterday. So a month ago yesterday, I was at Cape Canaveral Air Force Base, where I watched a SpaceX rocket launch a Orbcomm satellite containing payloads that were manufactured by my colleagues at Boeing into outer space. And it was definitely one of the most amazing things that I've ever seen. And this was a historic launch because it's the first time that a rocket that went into outer space actually had part of it come back to Earth and land safely so that potentially we can have reusable rockets. And I'm bringing that up, one, because it's amazing, and I'm still telling everybody about it every day, so I can check off that I've talked about it today. But Quita kind of touched on it. It shows the importance of STEM, and particularly in California. And Boeing is an aerospace company. Here in California, we're home of the world's largest satellite manufacturing. Most of you probably know our airplanes. Hopefully you fly them regularly. If you're not flying them, you're probably not flying much. And we also here provide 24/7 support to all of our aircraft. So we provide support to 13,000 in-service airplanes from more than 900 airlines worldwide. And you're probably wondering, like, well, what does a lawyer have to do, with rocket science? I like to say, so for administrative reasons, my title is senior counsel, but I like to say I'm a space attorney and a rocket scientist confidant and an intellectual property superhero. But there's an old adage that says, there's nothing certain in life except for death and taxes, and it's apropos that we're at a legislative hearing because it should be death, taxes, and the law. So, as you know, you cannot conduct business unless you comply with the law, unless you know how to enforce the law. You can't contract with others without the law. So it's very important. So I work with a lot of engineers and a lot of STEM, and obviously aerospace has been a traditionally male-dominated field. And it's very important that we empower women to, and particularly these are the ways that, the state can help is access. Giving women access to careers that traditionally have not appealed to women or that women aren't targeted towards. So it's really partnerships with businesses. There was maybe about 10 years ago, you guys may remember there was a Barbie that came out, and it was a talking Barbie, and it said math, and she said, math is hard. And so that's kind of how we program women from a young age to not consider STEM professions. So it's a cultural shift that we need to do to empower women. One of the great things that Boeing has every year is a global diversity summit, and that's where we bring leaders at all levels of the corporation together from across the world to talk about these diversity issues. And we had an amazing, and we have a lot of different panels, but another important thing for women, and that has been helped me in business, is a lot of times there's been studies that, if there's a job opportunity and it has 20 items that, you must have, 20 requirements, women will have 18 and they will say, oh, I can't go for it. I don't have 20. Men will have 2 and say, I'm going for that. So one of the things is, empowering women in the belief that they can achieve these things. And at our diversity summit, we had a panel that kind of, you also, so you have to be open to partnering with, the earlier panelists talked about having support networks for women of color, and that is absolutely necessary. But you also have to have, we had a panel on engaging the mainstream male in diversity issues. And because if you're going to change the way boardroom looks and corporate leadership looks, you're going to have to engage with, the mainstream male that's currently leading these corporations. And corporations like Boeing value diversity and inclusion highly, and it's not only, a important societal imperative, but it's actually an economic imperative. McKinsey and Company, you guys have probably heard the studies, that companies that have diverse boards perform much better than their industry peers. So we need women of color in business, because to be successful, you're not going to be able to do it without those diverse ideas and that diverse involvement. So look forward to keeping partnerships with the state and incorporating women in STEM and law. We need, as I've said, we need lawyers too.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll have Evelyn
All right.
Martinez.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us here. And I think this is a great start to a conversation that's very, very necessary in gathering everybody here. I think it's an ownership that we have, not just at the state level, but the corporate level, the community level. But let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Evelyn Martinez. I'm the area president for the Inland Empire for Wells Fargo. I've been with Wells Fargo for 22 years now, and banking is all I know. I came to this country when I was 5 years old. My parents immigrated from a small Central American country of El Salvador. And my father came here and started a gardening service. So I've been involved in business since I was very, very little. I remember at 12 or 13, I was writing checks and doing invoices for my dad's business. So it's definitely a passion of mine. I started as a teller to get me through school, and I had no idea this was going to become a passion of mine. It became a passion of helping customers, and then eventually helping team members develop and grow. And I've been able to, I've been very blessed to be able to help other young ladies and other Latinos and Latinas grow in this business. Let me tell you a little bit about Wells Fargo, and then I'll tell you a little bit about me, and then I'll end with what I think is needed to continue to grow leadership. Wells Fargo is an organization that really focuses on 3 pillars: our customers, our communities, and our team members. And we do that in many different facets. We do that by helping provide direction around financial education. We have access to financial education, which I think is a huge gap. But when we think of why business owners are not successful, and we heard that earlier in different panels, is business owners don't know what to do. Right? We provide advice through our branch system, but we also have some self-learning modules through hands-on banking, which is for our consumer client, and then we have Wells Fargo It Works, which provides advice to business owners, whether it's to start, grow, or maintain their business. It's self-learning, where it's accessible, whether you're a customer or non-customer, the information is available. We work with many different partners to provide access to capital. When I first came to the Inland Empire, one of the biggest requests, I sat down with a community group and they said, we need more money for our small business owners. We don't have access to capital. Wells Fargo's not lending. Well, what was happening is those small business owners didn't know how to access capital, right? We've got to educate them first on what do you need. And earlier we heard that some of our minority clients don't pay their credit card on time, they don't pay their mortgage on time because they don't understand the importance of that. To have access to the capital that they do need to grow their business. Marketing is a huge gap. So all that information, we have a resource to be able to provide that information. So our goal at Wells Fargo is to provide knowledge and then to provide access to the resources that you need to be successful in either consumer or business finance. Myself, I grew up in Los Angeles. I started, as I said, in San Francisco as a part-time teller to get me through school. I have my bachelor's degree in human resources, and I can tell you education is so important. And my father would always tell me, anybody can take away what you have. You can take away your car, your home, your money, but nobody can take away your knowledge. And I think that's a message that we need to give to our young ladies and young men so that they can proceed. And if we look at the Inland Empire, I think that's a huge gap for us. I think 18% of the folks in Inland Empire have higher education. The high school dropout rate is even higher. So there's opportunity there to provide some support. How do we do that? I think we need to start by providing knowledge, right? We have to come together at the state level, at the community level. A lot of corporations, I think, need to step up and provide that education and that knowledge to say you can achieve this. Here's what you need to do. So I'm sorry, your name? Quita talked about mentorship. That's huge. I would not be where I am today if I did not have mentors along the way. And I can tell you Wells Fargo has provided that for me, but I've also leveraged other organizations that have provided mentorship to help me obtain success along the way. I think the hardest thing for us to do is ask for help, though. And so we can't wait for people to ask for help. I think we, sitting around the table, need to reach out and provide that access to information and support. The other thing that I think we need to do is have a call to action to corporations to say, provide access for mentorship, provide access for access to information so that we can help and they can fix the issue that we have. We can't thrive in a community that's struggling, and it needs to be a collaborative effort. It can't be one organization. It can't just be the state. We've got to do it collectively. So I would offer you, Assemblywoman Brown, first of all, thank you for your support through the San Bernardino crisis. I know you were one of the first people that we called. You and I personally spoke, and you said we need money to help these families. So Wells Fargo actually contributed $50,000 to the United Way, and thank you for your input on that. But I would offer you our support in providing the access to the things that I just talked about, whether it's knowledge, whether it's mentorship. We have many leaders that sit at the senior leadership table that can be mentors and can support to continue to grow women of color leaders. I would say that's one of the reasons why I sit here today. Through Wells Fargo, our CEO has made a conscious effort to say we need diversity at senior leadership, and there's specific efforts being applied to help get women there. I'm a product of that. Our leader for California provided me the opportunity to participate specifically in a women's leadership program, and it was designed to help elevate myself to that next level, and that's why I'm here. We need more organizations to do that.
Thank you so much. I'm tempted to say something after each one, and I do have to introduce Peter Brightville, because Peter, with Wells Fargo, is the one that is our connection from the state level, and I appreciate you. You told me she was awesome, but you didn't tell me how awesome she really is. So thank you very much. Next, we will have Kim Winston, and she's with Starbucks.
Thank you, Assemblymember Brown, for hosting this very important forum. I'm going to start with talking about Starbucks, and I could talk a long time about Starbucks because it's a company I'm particularly proud of. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey in business. And it touches on my peers' experiences because I was in a very highly technical field before I joined Starbucks back in 2005. But just to talk a little bit about Starbucks, as you might know, we are probably one of the largest coffee purveyors in the planet. In California, we have almost 40,000 partners that we call, all of our employees are called partners because they all share in our profits. And I'm proud to say on the corporate side, and I work in San Francisco, not in Seattle, but Starbucks, over 65% of our partners are women and over 40% are minorities. Of our top 50 leaders at the company at the senior vice president level and higher, 26% are women and 18% are minorities. And of our vice presidents, about 48% are women and 15% are minorities. And we have established a bold goal by 2020 of striving to increase our top-level leadership to compose approximately 50% of minorities and women. So I want to say we have a very strong commitment. Many of you have probably heard our CEO talk about some very unconventional topics like race and education and citizenship, and we're very proud to be very strong supporters of all of the goals that this committee is focused on. I'm going to pivot very quickly to myself, and again, I want to thank you for hosting this forum. Elevating the status of all women with emphasis on women and girls of color is important to not only a competitive California economy, but also the development of healthy families in minority communities. Catalyst in March 2015 reports of all women employed by Fortune 500 companies. Women of color account for approximately 9% of mid-level managers, 4% of executive and senior level managers, and less than 1% of CEO levels. According to Mount St. Mary's University here in Southern California, in its 2015 report on the status of women and girls, it talked about 61% of the California female population are women of color. So I just share all that just to say that we must better prepare our women and girls of color to lead in corporate America and to lead in business. To share my own journey, I was a child that I was reared in Iowa, and yes, there are black people in Iowa. I get the same question. There were like three, my mom, dad, and me. But anyway, but seriously, my grandparents were entrepreneurs. They're farmers, and my father worked in. He was a blue-collar worker. He worked in a meat packing plant. But they had high aspirations for all of our family members, and so I do recall that my neighbor. We lived in a pretty close community, but my two cousins were my first inspiration to really go to school and to really study business, and they were the first black women professionals that I had encountered, as a young woman. After going through my, rearing in Iowa, I visited California and I fell in love, and I told my parents at 16, I'm coming to California and I'm gonna, go to school here, and I did that. I started my education at California State University, Sacramento. I should say, let me pivot back. I started my education at a community college, Casitas River College. And then after I finished my associate's degree, I always wanted to be a buyer. I wanted to do fashion design. And so I went and interviewed, and I'm going to date myself. I interviewed with Joseph Magnin, which at that time was kind of the premier. I see somebody shaking their head. They remember that. They were like the premier high fashion retailer in California. And I had the privilege of interviewing with a woman. I'll never forget her name. Her name is Gloria Ransom, and she was the general manager, African-American woman. And so I told her how much I wanted to really, be hired on for this career, and she sat me down and she told me she didn't have to do this, but she spent about an hour with me, and she really took the time to explain to me that a business career and a strong business foundation, education is vitally important. And so through that, I went back to school, got my BS, went on and worked. I moved to Bechtel Corporation, and that's where I was going to talk about the technical piece, because I worked in a predominantly male function in industry. And I just want to say that I think it's vitally important for women to do that. And I say that it really grounds you. It forces you to learn technical skills. It forces you to up your game, and it forces you to challenge yourself in fields that are somewhat uncomfortable. And I did that for a number of years. I moved to a wastewater company and did water engineering, and I learned about sewer systems and a lot of other things that are very unglamorous. But I just share this to say that I certainly encourage, as all of you sit here today and as we talk about young women in business, to stretch ourselves and to do some of those unconventional things that society typically doesn't picture us and see us as doing. So thank you for that, and I'll close there.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, panelists. Again, I want to hold my questions and hold the audience questions. We have one more panel that we want to complete. And as I'm as I'm speaking to you, I should be joined by Supervisor Josie Gonzalez, who is a business owner and who has been a business owner. She's texted me, she is on her way. Our next panel Panel 2, if you'll start coming forward. Annabelle Chang, Director of Public Policy for Lyft. And I'm having a little trouble with the next name, so you're going to have to say that name. Why don't I just have the rest of you self-introduce? Yeah, if you self-introduce, then I'll be okay. And we're going to start with Annabelle Chang. And it's good to see you again.
Great to see you, Assemblymember. Annabelle Chang, Director of Public Policy at Lyft.
You can go next.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Well, no, just go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll come back to her.
Sure. My name is Mahalet Getacho, and I'm Senior Legal Counsel at GoPro.
My name is Luz Rodriguez-Roldan, and I'm the Assistant Human Resource Manager of California Steel Industries.
Good morning, Assemblymember Brown, guests, thank you very much. My name is Lupita Sanchez Cornejo. I'm a Director of External Affairs for AT&T for the Greater Los Angeles region.
Thank you. We'll get started with Annabelle Chang.
Thank you, Assemblymember, and thank you for convening this great forum. So just a little bit to introduce myself, I am the Director of Public Policy at Lyft. We are a ride-sharing company that has we operate in about 120 cities in the United States. We are better known for our pink mustache. So if you haven't seen it before, this is what we are. I wanted to also introduce a little bit about myself. I am the very first lawyer in my family. So it was a big uphill climb to go to law school, and of course in law school, it's actually very poorly represented in terms of women and in terms of communities of color. And I was also in the Midwest. So that was an eye-opening experience. And working in politics, again, is very similar. But I'm proud to say that I'm no longer the only lawyer in my family. My younger sister, who is now in law school, will hopefully be joining me. And what I mean about that is, how important it is. Obviously, we've talked about having role models, people to look up to. They've already helped to break the ceiling, or in some ways, push along that ceiling. So I wanted to kind of give a little peek behind the curtain into the startup world. At Lyft, we have half of our executive team is made up of women. That's pretty extraordinary, especially for a tech company. And I think that really goes down to our company values, and I'd actually like to talk about them a little bit because it shapes so much of what I do and why I think we have these kind of incredibly profound numbers. One is, number one, be yourself. Number two is create fearlessly. Number three is make it happen. And most importantly to me is number 4, which is uplift others. And I want to describe how important that is, because when I first joined the company, it was about 170 people. Since that time, we have almost not even tripled, quintupled in size. So I've seen that growth. And what that means with that growth is there's a lot of job openings, a lot of opportunities. And how we continue to build our company means that we can continue to emphasize those values and also look at diversity. So one of the things that I want to share is one of my colleagues and I, April Mims, she is an African-American lawyer as well. And we both decided that as early members of the company, we were going to start something called the Community Solutions Program within our government relations team. And we were going to focus on outreach efforts to diverse communities and diverse policies as well, not only for our driver community, but also at headquarters. Because we co-founded this group, we were now able to say that we've reached out to the Green Lining Institute housed in the East Bay and signed a formal partnership. And we are looking to the Green Lining Institute for guidance and expertise as we mature as a company. And we're already going into our 2nd year of that partnership. And that partnership and these efforts are obviously because there are women of color in these key influential decision-making spots. And that's kind of expanding on what Dr. Turner had said about, having people at entry points, but also having people at the decision-making points, right? And when you can do that and help uplift others, that's a pretty extraordinary thing. So I just kind of wanted to close out that, I was thinking a little bit about hearing the testimony by the panel 1, and I was thinking about how many job openings we have in critical operational management positions at Lyft throughout the country now. And so as a woman of color in this position, I'm going to reach out to the panelists in panel 1 and ask them about, do they have great candidates for these operational management positions? And that's how you make that change, right? So I'm happy to talk about it afterwards and share that little peek behind the tech startup curtain.
Thank you so much. Moving on to our next panelist.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. As I mentioned, my name is Mahalet Getachew, and I'm Senior Legal Counsel at GoPro, the maker of wearable and mountable cameras, which best known for capturing action photos and videos of extreme sports enthusiasts. This is an incredibly meaningful opportunity for me, so I have to start by thanking you, Assemblymember Brown, for having this hearing and giving me the opportunity to participate. So my story is a very personal one, and it starts with my name. It is pronounced, as I mentioned, Mahalet. But for most of my life in America, throughout grade school, law school, and my career until very recently, everyone I know, my friends, classmates, and colleagues have all called me Malette. Mahalet, Malette. Why have I spent the past 30+ years responding to a name, Malette, that really isn't mine? Well, that's the very reason that we're all here today. While the number of women of color obtaining advanced degrees and succeeding in the corporate world is steadily increasing, I've spent the majority of my education and professional life as one among a handful of women of color, and often as the only Black woman and the only first-generation immigrant in my environment. Even in Silicon Valley, which is quite diverse, I still look around and often notice I'm the only Black woman in the room. This has presented, as you can all imagine, many challenges in my life and career beyond just having a difficult-to-pronounce name. Wanting to fit in and thereby feeling like I have an equal opportunity to succeed in my career has been the greatest challenge. To put this into context, I'd like to give you all a little bit of background about me. I arrived in America at the age of 6 with my parents and 2 brothers. We first fled from a communist revolution in Ethiopia to live in Kenya for a few years, and that was when I was 8 months old. When we could no longer stay in Kenya, we came to America on 3-month tourist visas with no intention to leave. I have vivid memories of the move from Kenya to America, but what stood out to me the most, and perhaps what had the biggest impact on me, is that nobody looked like us. You see, our only friends happened to be in Oregon, and like Iowa, there weren't any Black people in the town that we moved to. So we ended up in a small, predominantly white suburb south of Portland. And as far as I recall, we were the only black family there. Just imagine that. We went from Nairobi, Kenya, where pretty much everybody was black, to a place where nobody was black and nobody could say my name. So for my parents, their imperative was just to find a way to stay in America, and they ended up spending 6 years fighting for political asylum. For me, my imperative was just fitting in with my neighbors. And of course, the first thing I did was changing how I said my name. That was the first piece of the puzzle. Of course, my name is a big part of my racial identity, but I decided mispronouncing it so that everybody else could have a much easier time of saying it would help me feel included and help me not feel isolated. So that's how Mahlet became Millet for 30 plus years. While it was challenging growing up in a predominantly white community, I had the benefit of having a lot of mentors and seeing that so many people there were succeeding, and it helped me to think really big about my education and career. In fact, I went to law school because of mentors in that community that inspired me to do so and walked me through all the do's and don'ts. Of course, my parents had no idea about that whole process, so I felt very fortunate in that. And the same is true for all the other significant points in my career, and I echo what other people have said today. I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't have the job that I have, I wouldn't be happy if it wasn't for all the women in my life, especially women of color that have mentored me throughout my career. I started my legal career in Silicon Valley at an international law firm in Palo Alto. And needless to say, I was the only black corporate attorney in my office and among a very small handful of other women attorneys, none of whom were in the partnership level. It wasn't easy in that setting, as you can imagine, but I sought out as many women mentors as I could find right away to help me navigate all the challengings of that type of environment, which included, penetrating through that boys' club to get all the choice assignments and not the worst ones that come to you at 5 p.m. on a Friday, or, carefully handling the occasional off-color comments by well-intentioned colleagues. As an in-house attorney now, I have a much better support system, and while it's well known in the legal profession that it is the least racially diverse in the nation, I believe, in-house, the presence of high-caliber senior women attorneys is much greater, and it's an amazing opportunity where I've found growing is just great. So I'm now in my dream role at GoPro, still doing M&A, but actually loving life, which is very rare for lawyers. And I'm indebted to a small network of women executives for getting me here, as I said, and on a day-to-day basis, I'm surrounded by awesome women in all levels throughout our business that are succeeding and flourishing. But as you know, and as it was, big news last year, Silicon Valley has a lot of work to do when it comes to diversity and inclusion, and I'm looking forward to participating in that. Finally fitting like I fit in and have a chance to succeed in anything I put my mind to is a direct result of being exposed to more and more women of color in powerful positions. So I thank you, Assemblymember Brown, for spearheading this, and I look forward to seeing where it leads. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahalet.
Awesome, yes.
I did it. I've been joined, and I want to stop real quickly to say I've been joined by one of those ladies and one of those women who is really important in my life that sat me down and said, if you're going to do this, then you're going to need to work, and you're going to need to work hard, and don't disappoint me. Josie Gonzalez is a Board of Supervisors past chair of the board. And I left her in that meeting that I came here for. And I just want her, in just a few minutes after this panel's finished, to just maybe bring a few words, because she is and was a business owner. So we're going to move on to the next person first, and then we'll come back to her.
Good morning, Assemblymember Brown and committee and distinguished audience. Thank you for having me here. It's an honor. This is the first time I participate in a panel like this, and hearing everybody's ideas and testimonials, my gosh, it just warms my heart. And my testimonial is going to be more on a personal level. as Kiana Webb said, it kind of hit home because I come from a Latino family. My parents immigrated from Mexico. And my dad always said, he always encouraged us to go to school, but at the same time, he'd say, well, you're a girl, and, girls really don't need to go to college, because they're going to get married anyways. But, try to go to school. So, I would get this mixed message at home, and it's like, gosh, so then I went through school, got ready for college, and I asked my parents, I want to go away to college. They're like, no, 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 girls don't go away to college, they stay home. So it was very discouraging to hear this from my own family. But then again, I kind of fit in the stereotype and the statistics because I said, okay, well, since I can't go to college, I'm not going to go to college and I'm going to start working. And I started a family very young, in my early 20s. So thinking back, that really pushed me, going into the business world. I started working in a manufacturing facility as a receptionist. And I said, you know what, this is not what I want to do. Even though I enjoy it, it's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I started going to school part-time. And unfortunately, due to family issues, I had to discontinue going to school. But as I grew in my career and flourished in human resources, I found a love and a passion for HR. Not only for myself, for my own professional growth, but I found that I could help others in my profession. So I started off at the administrative level, learning all the clerical, the workers' comp, payroll, but I knew that there was a little more than I could do with that. So I pushed myself, even though I had kids at home, to continue to go to school and finish my degree. So I did receive an undergraduate degree from the University of Laverne in organizational management. And that degree is what opened the doors for me to obtain my position at California Steel Industries. And not to speak bad of California Industries because it is a great organization. It is a steel mill, so predominantly male. There's 85 women out of 936 employees. So I was one of the first female managers in the organization. We are a very lean operation. We do have about 46 managerial levels, 4 executives. And I was probably the second manager, and we currently now have 6 female managers in the organization. So I do have to, applaud California Steel for encouraging employees to continue their education. And as part of my career, I also do recruiting, so I do get the opportunity to go out to recruit to different universities. So I was glad to hear, that the universities have programs and are encouraging females to continue, their careers. And for us, being in the steel industry, we do go out and recruit for metallurgical engineers and different type of engineers, electrical, mechanical. So for me to go out and speak to the students, and to see more females in these capacities, in these roles, is very encouraging. So when they come up to me and ask for advice on a career path, or what to do, or if they see females in the steel industry. So for me, it's very encouraging to be out there and giving them advice on what to do and encourage them to apply at our company. So another thing that California Steel does, and I've been a part of that, is we do have an on-site bachelor's program. So we do encourage our employees to sign up, and it is during business hours that they do come in and for 3 hours attend class, and it does count towards their bachelor's degree. So one of the challenges that I faced when I first entered into California Steel was, because it was, as I mentioned, a male-dominant industry, was going into these meetings and being surrounded by 20 male managers and being the only female manager. So I think it is important that companies continue to empower and encourage their female employees to stand up, and I think also my education helped empower me to be able to be credible and to be heard. And, now being in charge of employee relations and giving advice to all these managers, I am credible, and they do come to me for advice. So it does feel good, and I thank my education for that. The other thing that I think helped was, and I think that we do need to encourage other candidates, is one thing that gave me an advantage point when I entered into the career field is that I did have experience already. So I kind of did things backwards, where I started working first and then pursued my education. So I think it is important that companies and universities offer internship programs for these students, especially females, because it's great to have the education, but if you don't have the experience, you're going to have a problem getting hired in corporate America. So that's one thing I encourage when I do talk to students, is that they do need to have a balance. I mean, they do have to have some work experience, whether it's, working somewhere, at a convenience store or at a retail store, but, and also continue to have the good grades and the education. So there does need to be the balance. So what CSI does as well is we develop training programs. So we do encourage, especially in the craft, sorry. Okay, well, thank you again for the opportunity. And one last thing, I do encourage, as Kita said, to have sponsors, mentors, and maybe a shadowing program as well.
Thank you so much. I just want to briefly say that one of the things that California Steel did when there was a downturn in the economy and there was no money out there, they didn't lay off one person. They took their staff, put them in the community to paint buildings, to do anything that needed to be done, and they kept them with their full salaries. I know that California Steel is one of those good industries that pays big wages. I think your incoming wage is
76.
1876.
Straight out of college.
Okay. So that's
Right, straight out of high school.
right. That's one of those good paying jobs. Before I move to the final panelist for the day, I want to introduce Sergeant Shelisha Williams. And she is with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. The reason that I want to introduce her is because she's being mentored by one of the women in the Sheriff's Department that comes to Sacramento and lobbies and brings the information from the Sheriff's Department to the legislators in Sacramento. So she's going to be the person that I will be dealing with and that our legislators will be dealing with. And we're really happy to see her here. Could you just please stand and just raise your hand a minute? And when I told her that Hilda Kennedy was here, I think that's how she got off work early. Hilda Kennedy is her first lady of her church. So thank you. Lastly, last and not but not least, Lupita, would you please give us your presentation?
Thank you, Assemblymember Brown. I cannot stress enough what an honor it is for me to be here representing AT&T and our over 250,000 employees that we have worldwide. But it's also a personal privilege to be here as well, because it's such an important topic for me on a personal level, because of the journey that I've had and the journey that my daughter will have. As I listen to everyone's discussions today, and I think about that these were issues that I faced some 20, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, but these are still issues today, very much so today. And so it's about opportunity, it's about being prepared, but it's also about making sure that we have the infrastructure in place so that our young women are in those fields. So I'm a proud 15-year veteran of AT&T. We like to call ourselves a 100-year plus startup company. So we're a little different here than some of the other peers here, where we've been around for over 100 years. Technology, it's something really that has changed our lives, especially in the last 20 to 30 years, as we look at computers, what the mobile phone has done. what connectivity has done for us. It changes the way that we live, that we work, that we interact with our families. So I'm very proud to be with AT&T for 15 years. And I will share with you, I've been with the company for 15 years, but I had the opportunity to take 2 years off, 1 year off with each pregnancy. And I share that because I love working for AT&T, and anybody who knows me knows that it's a fantastic company. We're a union company, one of the largest employers in the state. The opportunities that we have for our employees, but also the kind of work that we do for the communities in our citizenship and sustainability efforts. We have a true commitment to helping our families, and so today I wanted to touch a little bit about the kind of work that we do around technology. We partner, for example, with Girls Who Code, and as we look ahead and we see the kind of fields and jobs that are very highly technical, yet Girls Who Code tells us that less than 0.3% of women are going into the computer science fields. There's an issue there. Those are where the jobs are. And by 2020, we're going to have a shortage of 40 million high-skilled jobs. But we don't have that pipeline because we don't have our girls taking those kind of majors. We don't have our young women in that area. So one of the things that we need to look at as a state and our legislators, our government officials, is how do we have those kind of programs early on in junior high, in high school? If those are the jobs that are for the future, because that's the kind of world that we're headed towards, it's how do we get our young women in those classes? And that, I think, to me, is a critical and an area where Assemblymember Brown, that you can help is, as a company, we're investing the resources. Our chairman, 8 years ago, launched AT&T Aspire. It's our signature program from our foundation that devotes money towards these technology programs. So we're able to fund Girls Who Code, Girls Build organizations, local YMCAs, local different groups throughout. It's a $350 million contribution. Because there was one thing that the chairman saw is that as our kids were not graduating from high school, that is our workforce. And so if you're not graduating from high school, and in a technical field like ours where you need to be, you need to know your math, STEM fields, he believed that we needed to be a leader in that industry. And so with that, we also have a very strong mentorship program. And just last month, I'm proud to say that we had made a commitment of reaching 1 million hours of mentorship for our youth done by employees. And we reached that 1 year ahead of schedule. And I share that because we really do take pride of being an active member in the communities where we live and we work. And I can tell you that, through the course of my career, we've had hundreds of students come through our building. They do job shadowing, but we've also taken it to a different level. So they do job shadowing. They also, through our Mentor Academy, we do different kind of workshops, resume building workshops. Make sure that they go through our office, through our boardrooms, because we'd be surprised a lot of our children don't have that exposure. I will share with you, I'm first generation to go to school. I went to USC undergrad and then also USC for my master's degree. My sisters followed after, and they also went to school. My brother's school was not for him, and so he followed a different route. But I think that having women in his family who, excelled was also hard for him because he followed a different route. He tried community college a couple of times. It wasn't for him. And now he's he started his own small business not far from here in Lake Elsinore, commutes from the city of Bell where we grew up. But I share that with you because mentorship was so important. My parents were very young when they got married. My mom is 15 years older than me. In Mexico, you get married. You meet someone on a Saturday, and maybe 10 days later, you're getting married. But it really was the case. And so when you look at my family, up until a couple years ago, I still had my great-grandmother. Again, very young bride, my grandmother, young bride. My mom, very, teenage bride. I actually was not on that path. So I started much later. I was a mature bride and a mature mom. But I share that because at home, they wanted the best for their kids, but they didn't have the infrastructure. My mom finished first grade, as did my dad. So as much as they would have loved to have helped with homework, they couldn't. And now as I see the homework that I have a daughter who's in transitional kinder and a son who's in first grade, a 6-year-old, I see the homework that they bring home. And I mentioned to you earlier, I have a graduate degree. And I sometimes feel like I have to read this homework twice. And I tell my husband, I said, my parents would not have been able to help with this kind of homework. I said, so what are the kids in our other schools, how are they succeeding? And so that's why it's so important that we have the infrastructure, that we have the programs there, that we, our kids, as parents, we all want the same thing for our kids, the American dream. We want them to succeed. And so I applaud your efforts for leading this important discussion. I appreciate being invited and look forward to being other discussions because it's something that I think AT&T is such a leader in this space. But we've had 100 years to be good at it. And so I will say that, we have a 36% of our employees are women, and 35% are managers, and I'm an example of that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been outstanding. I'm sitting here and my mind is turning and I'm saying, what kind of legislation? Because that's what we do. What kind of legislation can we develop out of this discussion today? Well, whenever it comes to the legislation, that's me. But when it comes to working on that legislation and what we've done, then that's my good friend, Josie Gonzalez. And Ms. Gonzalez, would you please give us a few words?
Thank you so very much, Assemblymember Brown, and good afternoon to each and every one of you and invited guests. It's an opportunity that I have to serve as San Bernardino County Supervisor for the 5th District. You are in my district right now. Sierra Avenue is the line of demarcation. Everything to the west goes to the 2nd District, and everything to the east belongs to me, all the way up to the 10 freeway, down on the south end to the Riverside County line, and to the north end to Cal State University in Cajon Pass. It is a blessing for me to be in public office. I came up in a very unexpected way and through a very difficult path. But nonetheless, there is no reason for us to doubt why things happen to us in the formative years of our life, whether we attend college or we don't, for whatever reasons that happens. It is truly, and I will tell you that your belief in God plays a huge role in the outcome, because it is about attitude, consistency, dedication, faith in your work and in the value that you bring to the table. I will tell you that as a young person, I grew up in a business. My parents opened up Mexico Lindo here down the street at 9097 Sierra Avenue back in 1962. I ended up inheriting and running the business that I had worked in from the time that I was 7 years old. And it was not, it was not an easy task. There were no going home after school days because I went to work after school. There were no weekends off because I worked on the weekends. There was no summer vacation because that meant I worked full time at the restaurant. Whatever it was that needed to get done, I did it, and I was an only child. As I grew up, got married, had my children, I owned 2 automotive repair businesses. One was Allied Dyno Tune and the other was Allied Auto Repair. And I worked with nothing but men. There were no women in the auto mechanic field. let alone women owners. And I found very quickly that I had to make a niche for myself, and I studied and became a California state licensed smog inspector back in 81, 82, when smog certification became part of your DMV registration requirement. And I was very successful. I was surprised at how easy work came to me, and being able to reach out to people and engender the confidence to build a business. I ended up finding out that the regular everyday guy that wanted a job, because I couldn't find women mechanics, was not as loyal to appearing at work every day on time and ready to go to work. So I ended up looking around and saying, where is the need? Where are people that need jobs? And I found that the recently released from prison males were some of the best hires I could have. And I would give them jobs, and they were happy to get the jobs. Yeah, I think a little bit about the danger, but you know what? I just came across as really mean and tough and gruff, and kind of threatened them here and there, and then used the mama, oh, I love you, you're so sweet, you're so good, I know you were good to your mama, and I know you want to rebuild your life kind of thing. And it took a little time, but I built a workforce, and I had a very, very successful, financially successful life. From there, my parents passed, and I ended up coming back to Fontana and taking over the business, and then ultimately being asked from this dais. Back then, a mayor and a couple of council members asked me if I would then consider putting in an application for a planning commission. I did not. I consider it because I thought I didn't know anything about running a city, let alone designing and community development type of issues for a city. And I say this to you because there is a reason. When I came here, because I was invited to submit an application, and I did not want to do it, my children were the ones that said, Mama, you need to go out and you need to give it a try. You always tell us that we have to take chances. You tell us we have to be proactive, and it's your turn. So I came out and I had the interview, and I was told that I was not planning commissioner material because taco makers like me did not have the qualifications. And I will tell you exactly what went through my mind. I did not get upset. I picked up my purse and my glasses and whatever I had, and I looked at them and I thought, if you knew that I make $300,000 a year at my business just down the street from you, and I'm going to be upset because I can't be a planning commissioner for, I think then it was $25 a month stipend. I mean, it blew me away. And I left. About 6 months later, they reached out again and they said, we really want you to do this. I said, oh, no. They realized I wasn't going to come on board. So what they did is they put my name on the agenda. I had to show up, and it was on the consent calendar. There was no discussion. And within 15, 20 minutes, I became an appointed planning commissioner, knowing nothing. From there, I did everything that I normally do. Once I jump in, I need to quickly learn how to swim in those waters. And I took the opportunity to say, how do I learn to become a planning commissioner? And I did everything I could. I went to classes, and at the end of 1 year, I became the chair of the City of Fontana's Planning Commission. At the end of that year, I was asked if I would run for city council here in one of these very seats. And I ran, put up my own money, put up $7,000 of my own money, not knowing how to run a political campaign, but knowing already that politics has the propensity to be very controlling. corrupt at times, conflicting at times, and determined that I was not going to be part of that. I paid for my own political campaign, and whether I did it right or wrong, it was God's will, and I was elected. 6 years later, I was asked by the late Senator Nell Soto if I would run for San Bernardino County. She was running, but at the last minute, she was given a chairmanship at the state level to address water contamination, specifically perchloric contamination issues with she had subpoena rights, and she wanted to take that opportunity. She asked me to run in her stead. I put up at that time, again, already having been in office and run for re-election here in the city of Fontana, I put up $365,000 of I call it my parents' money, because they worked so hard and sacrificed so much, and I put up $1,000 a day for one entire year, 365 days. And I said, I'm going to do this, and if it's meant to be, I will be elected. I spent that money in 8 weeks. And that was all the time I had for the primary. I made it in the primary and had the runoff. I ran against the most powerful, the most likely individual to have won that seat, Assemblymember John Longville. He had all the money, all the contacts, all the experience. He was a shoo-in. Everybody knew who he was. And for me to come up out of a pack of 10 and become, in the general runoff, the second candidate, I knew then that I had an opportunity, that all I had to do was work even harder. And by God's grace, on the Wednesday morning after Tuesday, Election Tuesday, the newspapers announced that Assemblymember John Longville had won. And so my husband and I went off to breakfast, and we said, well, we gave it a good try. It's done. I feel good. I learned a whole lot. I ran from a safe seat here, so I knew I still had my city council seat. And here on about 1:30 in the afternoon, I get a call from San Bernardino County Executive Director at that time, Mr. Mark Guffer, and says, you know, we're going to need you to come in and start signing some papers and this and that and the other. And I said, no. I said, you know, I think you have my contact information mixed up with Assemblymember John Longville's, because he won. And they said, no, he didn't. And I said, yes, he did. And he said, no. He said, actually, the newspaper reporter did not stay up after midnight, and that's when the precincts that truly had the majority of the votes that went in your favor were counted, and consequently, you need to come in. And from then on, I will tell you that every moment in time in which I have faced an obstacle, in which I have failed, in which I have fallen, in which I have had the strength and the courage to get up and do it again, has come to play in the form of a benefit that I see in each person, an opportunity to succeed and to excel. And that to this day, I look for the qualities in women that will actually work to address the disparity in pay, the continuing social biases, the continuing set aside many times of an idea or a comment by a woman in a room full of men simply because they can. And I haven't even as yet included cultural inhibitions. We must, through our own efforts, through our own presentation, through our attitude, how we dress, how we walk, how we talk, how we treat other people, be a walking advertisement for the young women that are yet to come, that are in diapers, that are in grade school, that are in high school, that are struggling through college, or simply struggling to take care of their parents, deal with their own personal issues, and knowing that one day, should they decide to lift their head and look around for opportunity, that they will find it because we have paved that way and we have identified where the doors and the windows of opportunities lie and have left a good impression. It is not easy. I will close what I'm saying with what happened yesterday. I had an opening for a public information officer in the making. It is really a public relations position in my office. I needed someone that I could trust, that I knew was hungry, and that wanted the opportunity that this vacancy provided. I did an interview with a young lady, and the reason I gave her the interview was that in the process of applying for the job, because it was a job that was not advertised. Normally, when I advertise a vacancy, all of the details that outline the salary and the benefits and all of that are included. This one I did not advertise. And this young lady came in and did interviews amongst other candidates and never once asked how much the job paid. And I saw a clear hunger, that hunger that I saw in those young men that were early released from jail many years ago. I recognized that. I didn't know what it was in her, but I saw this energy, and every time I asked her something, she would lean in and say, I have this idea for this, and I think I can improve that. And I haven't seen this or this technological process so in social media done from your office. I'd like to try this. I'm looking forward for some creative freedom, she said. Never mentioned anything else. So I sent her on her way after the interview, and I consulted with my chief and my deputy chief, and I said, I think there's something here. I think that we can make a true addition to my office. I called her up and I said, I want you to know that I have decided to offer you the position if you promise that you will work hard and that you will give 100%, that you will be honest, that you will be decent, and that you will be hardworking and treat other people as if they are the most important thing you have to do at that moment. And she said, oh, yes, I will. I want the job. Thank you so very much. And she said, I'll do whatever it takes. And she went on a bit, and I said, okay, all right, well, I said, my chief of staff will be contacting you tomorrow and be sharing all of the details that you have to go through in order to, you have to pass a background check, you have to pass a, physical, all that kind of good stuff. And she said, thank you. And I waited, and I said, aren't you going to ask me how much the job pays? And she said, actually, I needed the job so bad. She said, it doesn't matter. And I said, how much? I said, how much are you earning right now? She said, I earn $12,000 a year. She said, and I'm so grateful for the job because I help support both of my parents. I said, are you, I had made her pull over. When I called her, she was driving, I had made her pull over. And I said, well, that's a beautiful thing to hear, that a daughter in our community loves her parents and finds value in the way she was raised, to the point where at 28 years old, she could be out doing all kinds of other things. That you are sacrificing the opportunity to work full-time so that you can help to physically take care of your parents. She said, thank you. I said, you will make a life change. I said, because the job that I am giving you is a job in which you will earn, with God's grace, $60,000 a year. And I will make sure that she grows, that she earns every penny, and that when she rises to the level where she can move on as her predecessor just did, because her predecessor I picked up, hired as an intern from Cal State University. He's with me for 3 years. And 3 weeks ago, I helped him interview and receive the PIO position for the San Bernardino County Fire Department. All of the county moving up at the age of 27. This is how we do it, ladies and gentlemen. We help each other. We find people. We encourage them to apply for jobs. We look locally to find the talent that parents have raised. Our parents, all of our parents, whether they knew how to or not, their love for us, their dreams for us was to succeed. How or where or when they may not have known or been capable of carrying us to that place. My parents were not able to do that in the educational arena, but they gave me the work ethic, and they gave me the love for the public and the people that patronized the business, that paid for the bills, that ultimately led to financial stability and independence. And that is one of the best kept secrets that we need to bring forward in the form of advertising and marketing our human resource, not only in this county, in the Inland Empire, but in the entire state. And this is how we help our state legislators, to that when we move forward, we give them a human resource product that truly reflects the values and the investment that our parents have made in our communities. And for this, I thank you, Assemblymember Brown. You are an awesome individual that continues to bring back a spotlight and a focus on the youth and the upcoming leadership that we have in training. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Every time I hear Supervisor Gonzalez, I learn more information, but I'm at awe. And I'm in awe of this whole entire day. I know that each person here got something out of what was said. We have a few minutes left, and we want to make sure that that we have members of the public. I know you have questions. I know you have comments. You have to, because that was just awesome. And excuse me, if you would line up over here at the podium, I want to take the time to allow you to speak. And as you're coming, I just want to do a wrap-up of saying some of the things I heard today was that we need data or data. There was 2 or 3 people that talked about the data that we need in order to make our lives better and in order to make our businesses better. Access to capital, capacity building. I love the Girls in Code. I tried to get involved in that this year, and I'm going to get involved next year. But the code week that they had, I came back, I was so excited, I didn't know what to do. But the schools here did participate, and we are going to start pushing our girls and our children, boys and girls, into the code science. I guess you call it computer science. I love that we need to have a sponsor and a champion. And even in my position, I need a sponsor and I need a champion and I need a board, because I need to stay on top of what the people in the community want. Not all the outside forces, because we have outside forces, especially in Sacramento, that everybody wants something. But is it good for my community? Is it good for the 47th Assembly District, the 490,000 people here? We need to start the conversation on how to ask for help, is what I heard. And that we need to, diversity has been, I hear we talk about diversity, and you say that we're moving towards diversity. But I also heard someone say that there is a problem because we're over understanding diversity. So we need to look at that as well. The way, we had a bill, and it was Hannah Beth Jackson, and it was a gender equality bill. It was a bill, a pay bill that says women have to make the same as a man in that same position. That is coming forward. I'm not sure of when it goes into effect. I think it might have been January 1 because we passed it last year, but it was the Women's Caucus of the state of California that felt that we need to make sure that everyone is paid equally. Government contracts, really important for people in business because that's another way to grow your business. I am very impressed with Ms. Webb because she has 1,300 employees. That's a small business that is a success. And if you ever go into her business, you'll see her McDonald's are different. Her McDonald's are different because she puts a little touch on them. And she has a sign that says Webb Enterprises. As a McDonald owner, and it's really interesting. If you ever get an opportunity to go into a Webb Enterprise, there's a couple in Colton, and that's my district, by the way. And she just does it a little differently. So I'm happy with that. We have to look at balancing working with education, with being a mother, with being a wife, or with our entire, what we do. And so we have a different focus as women. And right now, we have someone that's at the podium who will be speaking to us and asking or making a statement.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity, Assemblymember Brown. My name is Nicole Kinney. I'm the director of the Inland Empire Women's Business Center. I was born and raised here in Fontana, ordering bean and cheese burritos at Mexico Lindo from the time I could see over the counter. It was been an institution in this town for many years, and I've had the opportunity to follow Supervisor Gonzalez as well as Supervisor Rutherford and Mayor Warren. They've just really done a fabulous job laying the groundwork for women like me, who are raised in blue-collar families, one working parent, first-generation college graduate in my family, and now I'm running a local nonprofit organization that serves women through a training and counseling program to start and grow their own businesses. Women's business centers there's about 110 of us nationwide. We are under the SBA umbrella, and we are still considered the little sister to the Small Business Development Center or the SCORE organizations. We're the smallest and the newest of the 3 organizations that are under the umbrella of the U.S. Small Business Administration. We serve women who are victims of domestic violence, formerly incarcerated, the women who are the primary caregiver to not only their children, but also their parents, as just the nature of our family dynamic changes. So I just want to encourage everybody to consider your Women's Business Center when you're looking for partnerships, collaborations, as far as capacity building goes, because we're already in many communities throughout the nation, and we're doing wonderful things to uplift and empower the future entrepreneurs in our regions. So we're really proud to do what we do, and we never miss the opportunity to advocate for our program, because that's one of the things that is going to help remove that title of little sister from the Women's Business Center network. And I just want to ask the question, how can the Women's Business Center, because one of the things that I've heard and seen and been curious and haven't yet acted on is how can we educate more women to serve as, what can we do to get them the information to connect them? How do I become a council member, public policy maker, advocate at a higher level? So if there's something that we can do to help educate more women, that this opportunity can be for them. If I'm just a taco maker
Come on. So that this is an opportunity for them because women don't always ask the questions or think that it's an opportunity for them because they have always seen themselves a certain way. So if we can get some more information on that, I'd be happy to see how we can help connect people with that information so that they can see themselves as the council member, as in the planning department, help give women that greater voice in those seats and in those positions. So
Thank you so much. The answer to your question is standing right beside you. In our office, we have wonderful, wonderful staff, and they are the staff that will help work with you to get anything that you need that our office can provide. And Lisa Blackshear is there. Ashley Jones is here. Shannon McKinley is over there, and she's in our Sacramento office. And Amanda Saychow is sitting there as well. And I stumble to say that because this is her last day with me. But the story is that Amanda is an amazing young lady. And in our office, we want you to leave. We want you to leave so that somebody else can come behind you and take your place. But Amanda is going from, I can't tell what you're going to make, right? Amanda is going to make, because the state doesn't allow us to pay what people are really worth. Amanda is going to probably make $20,000 more a year than she makes working for me. And she started out as an intern working for Fiona Ma, and then she came to work for me, and we're going to miss her, but we're going to wish her well. And she's going over to the Franchise Tax Board. So she's going to be a budget analyst. So this is one of the people that, we're looking at how we can do that. We additionally have a youth component. What are we calling them? The Youth Academy. I'll be meeting with them tomorrow, and we will be working on mentoring those young people so that they can replace us. Now we have
Assemblymember Brown?
Yes.
If I may, I'd like to give Nicole, or give my number out. Nicole, if you'd be so kind as to contact my office at 909-387-4565 and speak to my Chief of Staff, Mr. Daniel Flores. Mention Assemblymember Brown's event today and that you came before us and spoke. And I would very much like to pick up the conversation where we left off and see what I can help at the local level to strengthen that foundation that then will enable Assemblymember Brown to be even more successful. Thank you.
Thank you. And at the podium, we have the Vice Chair of the Rialto School Board, whom I've known most of her life.
Right. Thank you, Assemblymember Brown. Again, my name is Dina Walker. I am the Vice President of the Rialto Unified School District, as well as I am the President and CEO of Blue Educational Foundation, which is an advocacy organization for education with an emphasis on college access for Inland Empire young people. So my question is to some of our distinguished guests. Are there, from your companies and partners that you work with, do you have formalized internship or mentoring opportunities for girls of color, specifically in the Inland Empire? Because that would be a resource heavily that we would need as some of the issues that are facing girls of color in our schools now, especially at the high school level with push out and a lot of other things, that they don't have those opportunities. Are there any formalized programs, internships, mentorships for girls of color, specifically for the Inland Empire? If you could address that. Thank you.
Is there one who would like to address that?
Thank you. I'm happy to take that. Let's connect after the hearing, and I can put you in contact with one of my counterparts who covers this area for AT&T. Okay. I mentioned earlier that through our AT&T Foundation, our signature program Aspire, we have the Aspire Mentoring Academy.
Excellent.
Where we partner with different nonprofit organizations, and then we bring kids to our facilities. So we do have those programs in place, and in addition to doing that, we partner with groups that do that kind of work as well. So let's connect after.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If anybody- Thank you.
Miss Lorena Corona,
Yes.
you're
Yes, ma'am.
next. She's also, you're president of the board?
Yes.
President of the school board here in Fontana.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, and thank you for this great opportunity. My name is Lorena Corona. I'm a governmental relations for Chaffey Community College, and as I stated, board president of the Fontana Unified School District. While I'm sitting in there, I hear the opportunity, what can we do? And so in education, knowing the population that we serve, we have a need from the legislature to create an incentive for these businesses to create mentorship programs, especially when it comes to career and technical education and when it comes to adult education. In my district, and includes Chaffey Community College, a great percentage of our students are in extreme need. Fontana Unified School District, 86% of our students are in free and reduced lunch. When they hit high school, our kids have the value and the urgency to survive. So they're searching for jobs that take them away from the path of higher education. And they do it with the aim to support their families. But we need to have opportunities created coming from the legislature that will motivate all of us and that will create a process so our high school kids, our college kids can have those jobs and grow, because we don't have those kind of incentives actually. And then we have an at-risk population right now, the homeless. I personally know an amazing young woman who is homeless, a 3.8 GPA STEM student at Chaffey College. Throughout the system, we're trying to help this amazing woman who is in a survival mode. But we are not there yet. If we have a system in play that will invite all of our business to collaborate and create those opportunities, it will benefit all of us. And I thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. We will start looking towards that collaboration. We have the people out here that can help us. We have the folks that have presented to us today that gives us the genesis for what you're talking about.
And I will be more than happy to collaborate. The California School Board Association is looking for people like Assemblymember Brown to partner with us and find new ways. The Chancellor's Office, California Community College Chancellor's Office, is also looking for place to create opportunities. And now you have given us the opportunity to bring the passion from the community. I mean, if we take your stories and we share your story with our kids, that is where the magic happens. That is where the United States of America remains the top nation. Because here, we, the people, make the magic. We are the ones who make a difference. I thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Corona, if you would be so kind as to contact my office, my homeless liaison, Mr. Kent Paxton. If this young lady you speak of is still in a condition of homelessness, we can address that immediately. So 387-4565, if Kent is not in, speak to Susana Fernandez, and she will help you right away.
It's a young 50-year-old woman.
It doesn't matter how old she is. As long as she is homeless, we will find housing for her.
Thank you.
All right, and on that note, I can't pass up this opportunity to say, on the 28th of this month, the homeless point-in-time count will take place. This is a mandated window from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock in the morning, in which the homeless will be counted. And only those that are identified in that window of time will we then, as a city, county, or state, be able to receive funding from HUD in order to address the homeless population identified in that window. Thank you so much.
And know that they tell me in Sacramento that San Bernardino County doesn't of homeless people. We have them, but they're just not evident many times. Hi.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having this panel today. I'm a graduate student at California State University, San Bernardino. And just based off the discussions that are happening, I feel so inspired to go out there and work a little bit harder than I already am. Thank you. Currently, I'm pursuing my Master's of Public Administration in Cybersecurity. So just hearing a lot of the panelists today speaking about women in technology in the STEM field, I wish I'd known about it a little bit sooner. I got my undergraduate degree in business admin and entrepreneurship. And when I graduated and started applying for jobs, I was just so surprised by the limited opportunities that I had available to me. And one of the things that I realized was that I did not have enough job experience to back up my degree. And had I known what I know now, I would have I would have been looking for internships as I was pursuing my degree. And that was the question that I had for you today, but I think that everyone is well aware of that students do need those opportunities. And for you that are in positions that can speak for students to open up internships, I think that would be something students would appreciate a lot, because we do need that hands-on experience so that when we do go to the interviews, we don't just have a 3.8 GPA and I'm a part of different organizations. But yes, I've actually partnered with the private sector or the public sector, and I've spent time working on different projects. So please go back to your organizations or your companies and really be an advocate for students to have access to different internship opportunities.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your name again is?
Dora Baldwin.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
One more thing, Assemblymember Cheryl Brown. I'm also a member of the Lobby Corps Committee at California State San Bernardino, and one of the things that we do is we participate in Advocacy Day at the Capitol. So one of the things that I am here to propose is for our university to receive more funding from the state, because Cal States in general are one of the least funded institutions in California in comparison to the UCs and the private sector or the private academic institutions. So I definitely think that there's a lot more that we could do in the San Bernardino and the Inland Empire community to have students have access to free resources, so that when they are looking to go into the business, looking to start businesses, they are able to participate in different workshops that don't cost $300 or $1,000 to participate in, but are funded from the state and are free resources at the university. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that's something to really think about, because as your businesses are looking for projects, $350 million, that could help to pay for some of those resources that she was asking for. Because I can pretty much tell you, we're going to do what we can at the state, but we have water problems, we have children who need to get into school. I'm just telling you, it's a lot. There's so much competition for the money. So we really need to look towards our industries to help us on those things that they can help us on, and we'll be pursuing that. We have one last comment because we are supposed to be out of here at 1 o'clock.
Hi, my name is Carol Ann Ford, and I am from American Association of University Women. And so much of this has been talking about STEM, and I don't know whether you all know, but California AAUW started a Tech Trek program about 12 years ago. We were the first state to do it. It's now gone national. But we take 7th grade girls going into 8th grade, and we furnish scholarships for them to go to a college campus for a week during the summer, and it's strictly STEM related. They may learn about robotics, they may learn about coding, they may learn about CSI stuff, they may go out in the ocean depending on which campus they're going to. And so we have the 12 camps that, and it costs $900 per student to go. So I'm looking for money to send more girls. So far, we've sent about 10,000 girls. And so each campus holds almost 100. And it goes from San Diego to Stanford, the campuses are. So I just wanted to let you know that we are trying to do something at the grassroots level. Unfortunately, we don't have any branches in Fontana or Rialto. The closest one is my branch, which is Ontario Upland Rancho branch, and we try to send about 7 to 8 girls. Most of them are girls of color because of the area we are, but it is for girls that the teachers think would really get a lot of information, would get a lot of self-confidence, and would be good in the STEM field, because we want to get them to go on and take classes in high school.
Thank you so much. Following following our, our close, you can speak with some of the panelists and maybe talk to them, and they can help you individually. I know Stanford is in the house. When you said that they're there, I mean, that should be an easy ask, because she's right here, and you need to feed people so that she can have a program there at her university. I have one person to introduce, and that's Elizabeth Fuller, and she is our consultant for the Legislative Women's Caucus, and she's been working with us on these hearings. Elizabeth, could you please stand? Thank you. And we have Office of the Speaker, Member Services, and Darren Parker.
Good morning, Madam Assemblywoman, distinguished guests and panelists. Ladies, good morning. Thank you for introducing me this morning. I wanted to just share with you something very quick in a report that I received as you talked about homelessness, Madam Supervisor. San Bernardino County was touted as one of the counties in California that actually cured their homeless problem over the last 2 years. There are several cities that have been funded to do it. San Bernardino County has led that pack. They also mentioned that there have been some people, since you cured your homeless problem initially, that have now started to move into the area. So we'll start looking for those new people, because they have found out that work gets done in San Bernardino, and we salute your work.
Thank you so much. I read in the paper before I came today that our veterans homeless population has now been all housed. Everyone has a place to stay. And that's because of the work that my friend here, Ms. Gonzalez, I started to call you by your first name, Ms. Gonzalez has done, and I appreciate the work that she's put in and the work that our county has done. They said my time is over. I really want to talk some more, but we can't. This has been a very, very rich discussion. And it also talks about women being self-sufficient, women rising up, women doing what they can do. My co-chair is Nora Campos. She could not be here today. She is from San Jose and had a whole weekend thing that she had to do. But we have been doing these all over the state. And right now, this is the final hearing. But I have a feeling that we need more, and that we need to really start addressing the issues that are affecting women, and especially women of color in the state of California. Anything else that's burning for any of our panelists? Thank you so much for being here with us today, and we are adjourned.